Okay, thanks very much, Chad. Good evening or good morning. Yeah, wherever you are, it's evening for me here in Lusaka, Zambia. And yeah, thanks for giving me your time to listen in to me and yeah, a few slides on our new area of operation, North Luangwa National Park, and our new camp in the North Luangwa, Kutandala Camp. So I will I'm going to start a little bit broad and give a bit of context to who I am and who we are as a company, as Classic Zambia. I hope all of you know who we are, but if you don't know or you need a recap, we are fundamentally, we're an owner-run and operated safari company, right? And in the Zambian context, for us, that's very important because um, it's what Zambia was founded on. The likes of Norman Carr of Norman Carr Safaris, the likes of Robin Pope of Robin Pope Safaris. And nowadays, in a world where everything's going a bit more corporate, we're very proud that the four owners, myself and my three colleagues, are still here championing, that owner-run spirit. And as a consequence, the fact that we developed all of our camps from scratch, the directors are actively involved. This is not a hobby business for us. The four of us are all professional guides. Two of us are biologists. Fundamentally, we are wildlife people first, that are trying our hardest to make safari and tourism in Zambia our business. So we're not business people trying to make safari work. We are wildlife safari people fundamentally. So yeah, I mean, we have a collection of classic style bush camps across Zambia now. Um, we've got the three camps in the Kafue National Park. We've got two camps in the Lower Zambezi, and I'm here this evening talking about our new camp up in the North Luangwa National Park. Um, I think it's important to note that something we're also very proud of is the locations of our camps specifically. They really are all of them in the very core parts of the parks in which we operate. These are not peripheral areas. If you are a $5,000 a night lodge or a campsite, you would want your camps to be exactly where our camps are located. And that isn't by chance. That's because we grew up in this country. That's because we spent our lifetime finding the most unique corners of these parks to ultimately one day try and call our own and have to showcase to our guests. And the Kutandala aspect of North Luangwa certainly fits into that bill. It is exactly where you want to be if you are visiting the North Luangwa National Park. So aside from that background to us as people and our camps and where we are, a big USP for us is the emphasis on the quality of the guided experience. So we're very proud about how lovely and our camps are aesthetically and everything that comes with that, our food and wine. But our big USP is the quality of guiding. It's something we've always hung our hats on. You see one of the lower image here is one of our internal guide training days that we hold. My colleague Kyle Branch, one of the four owners, is not only sort of heads up our own internal guide training as a company, and by that I mean he mentors our entire guiding team from the most junior still to the most senior. But Kyle also writes the national syllabus for all guides in Zambia. So anyone of any safari company in Zambia whose guides have been qualified or failed, it's thanks to Kyle. And I'm just saying that because that kind of underpins the emphasis that we put on that quality, and you all will know how important having a very good guide is to your experience, especially in truly wild areas, where you can't rely on your neighbors telling you where the lions are. Your guide and the quality of your guide really is the difference maker. So yeah, that's us in a big nutshell. Maps are always good. So here's a map of Zambia. Of course, I hope you all know where Zambia is and where we're located. Of course, Lusaka, the capital city where I am right now, right in the middle of the country, and that's your hub for forking out typically to the main wildlife areas in Zambia. In the west here, we've got the Kafue National Park. You can see the three camps that we have here, Musakesi and Temwa Basanga and Lwenge, which is being built right now for opening next year. You've got the Lower Zambezi National Park just to the east, southeast of Lusaka. We've got our two camps there, Chula and Putali. And then as you head further sort of northeast from there, you see the famous Luangwa Valley, South Luangwa National Park with Mfui, the access hub for South Luangwa, and Kutandala, our camp up in North Luangwa, a separate park to South Luangwa, but very much part of the same valley system. So that's where we are. Just an interesting sort of graphic. Camps, seasonal bush camps, our camps are all seasonal bush camps, typically opening around May or June. Kutandala specifically opens in June, and we stay open at Kutandala in North Luangwa from June through to the end of October. As you can see, June and July are slightly cooler temperatures. August is a very pleasant month for temperatures, and in September and October, it really starts to ramp up. I see it says 35 degrees C here, but it does reach even 40 degrees in the valley. No chance of rain really until November, but by then we're closed. So that's the seasonality of North Luangwa. June is our 1 month of low season in terms of rates, and July through October is high season or peak season in terms of rates. And I suppose whilst we're talking about that, or whilst I'm talking about that, in low season, we don't have any single supplements. So if you've got single travelers that have always been keen to get up to North Luangwa, or in fact any of our camps, then do look at the low season, because the ability to avoid those single supplements, which do kick in July, is really nice to have that. Back to some maps. So as you can see, North Luangwa here, slightly more zoomed in version, and then another version of the same map to sort of prompt me to explain how one would get to North Luangwa before I show you how lovely it is. So 99% of our guests will be flying from Lusaka to Mfui. ProFlight Zambia, the main internal airline here in Zambia, fly several times a day between Lusaka and Mfui. It's around $300 to $350 a person each way. And then to get to North Luangwa from Mfui, we have our own aircraft as a company. Classic Zambia has its own Cessna, and it will be based in Mfui for these hops up to North Luangwa for the foreseeable future. We have got an offer, an opening season offer, where if you spend 4 nights or more with us in the North Luangwa, then this flight hop between Mfui and North Luangwa is free. So all you have to pay for is the Lusaka to Mfui flight, and then we take care of you from there onwards. Lusaka to Mfui is about an hour-long flight, and Mfui to North Luangwa is about a 45-minute flight. And just to call it a flight doesn't do it justice. It's very much a scenic flight. We fly low, following the course of the Luangwa River north, past the Nsefu sector, Luambi, and into the heart of North Luangwa Park. So it really is an activity in its own right. So this is an important point. North Luangwa has always been an interesting and intriguing place, I think, for folk, but a big sort of negative to it was, how do you get there? It would always have been a very expensive charter, especially for 1s and 2s and 3 packs. And now the ability to solve that logistical problem and the cost of that logistic is huge. It's huge. To be able to tick that, I think, is massive. And I don't know that we will always be subsidizing those flights from Mfui to North Luangwa. But for 2026, if you've got guests that have anyone in your email box that said North Luangwa at some point, this is really the year to try and get them in there. And I'll show you now a little bit more about how the camps and the park works. As I said, you'd fly in from Mfui to North Luangwa, 45 minutes. Our camp, Kutandala, as you can see, is right slap bang in the middle of the national park. This is what I was talking about, all of our camps being right in the core areas of the parks, not on the edges, near the gates where you have to drive in, hustle and bustle to get into the core areas. We are waking up in the best and most dense wildlife areas of the parks we operate in. Lobongo airstrip is the airstrip that we fly into. It's about an hour away from Kutandala. For those of you who are already familiar with North Luangwa National Park, you'll know that there is a camp called Mwaleshi Camp, the only other camp to ourselves, and it's been there for a long time. It's a 6-bed camp operated by Remote Africa, and there's an airstrip right near them called Mwaleshi, also about an hour away. But we'll be using Lobongo. Slightly better access to Kutandala for us, but semantics if you haven't really been there. But yeah, an hour after landing, you will be in camp at Kutandala. This is a cool photo. I'm glad I found this when I was creating this slide. This is our aircraft, the exact one that your guests will be on. landing at the exact airstrip I'm talking about. Now, Lubongo was never actually a commercial airstrip. It was created by Frankfurt Zoological Society, who are the folk that manage North Luangwa National Park, in order to carry out their anti-poaching patrols. It's been the airstrip used for the rhino reintroduction project, which has been ongoing for over almost 20 years or just over 20 years now. And so, yeah, we were very chuffed when we were one of the first sort of commercial aircraft to be given access to land in the heart of their rhino introduction project. And all of your guests will be landing at this airstrip and see firsthand that the structures of the rhino enclosures for reintroductions are still there. The anti-poaching dog unit is based at this airstrip. So it might just be an airstrip, but it is a very cool start, and you're already fully immersed straight away in what is a very special park from a conservation perspective. Okay, so I've got about 5 or 6 bullet points as to what makes North Luangwa unique. I spoke about it a little bit, but the complete and utter wilderness, the fact that there is nobody else around. We are the largest camp in the park with 10 beds. As I said, you've got Moaleshi Camp, which is about 15 kilometers away from us to the east, with 6 beds. Well, sorry, yeah, 6 beds, 4, maybe 8 beds, I think. They've got 4 rooms, so nobody. And the park is absolutely massive. It's about 6,000 square kilometers with, what's that? Yeah, 16 beds. So yeah, it's hard to put that into context really, but when we talk about if we're selling wilderness to our guests, in reality, where does that exist without having to pay a premium for it? And in Zambia, we know we still have that in places like the Kafue. Outside of the Kafue, the next other place we have that is North Luangwa. And a lot of people value that exclusivity. We talk about luxury a lot, and for a lot of people, luxury is an exclusivity of experience, and you will not see another soul on safari in North Luangwa. What people don't often realize nowadays is the quality of wildlife viewing in North Luangwa, the density of wildlife, thanks to the concerted, now many years effort of anti-poaching and very effective anti-poaching, and community work alongside that and alternative livelihoods work that Frankfurt have been doing, has created various very impressive stats. So the highest elephant density in the whole of Zambia, so not the Lower Zambezi, which if anyone's been there, you know is full of elephants, not South Luangwa, full of elephants, but North Luangwa. It's also got associated very high densities of all, you know, the more charismatic wildlife that you might want to see on safari, including the predators, particularly lion and wild dog. Wild dog population in North Luangwa is proliferating as it is in South Luangwa. There are 3 known packs of wild dogs that we saw alone just this season out of our camp, and we were only open for 2 months of the year this year. Lion we were seeing daily. It really blew us away, to be honest, how much wildlife. We knew the wilderness was going to be there. We weren't too sure about the visibility of wildlife, and yeah, we knew that the densities were there, but would we see them? And we truly did. So aside to that, the North Luangwa is home to the only wild black rhino population in Zambia. This is huge. It's the only place, and I almost cringe when I say it, but it's the only wild Big Five game destination in Zambia. And we had 3 different days of safaris this year where guests saw the Big Five on their safari by foot, by vehicle. And yeah, look, we're very, very proud to be part of this story. The black rhino population is also one of the fastest repopulating and growing populations of rhino in Africa. Frankfurt asked us not to publicize the statistics and numbers, but it's safe to say that Kutandala specifically is the best place in Zambia to try your hand at finding rhino. Yeah, the camp itself, Kutandala, is right in the heart of the 1,200 kilometer wide or squared rhino release area. So yeah, it's a big area, but there are a lot of rhino that call it home, and Kutandala is in the middle of it. North Luangwa has a very strong conservation heritage. I spoke about Frankfurt quite a lot. It's a big part of the North Luangwa Frankfurt Zoological Society. but so is the history of Delia and Mark Owens, who are, I guess, Delia slightly better known as now an author. But the two of them have a fascinating history in conservation in Africa. Some of you may be aware of it. It's somehow, to some, a contentious point. But yeah, it's a fascinating area with those who are interested in reading behind the scenes of parks like these and what a park like this looks like today. Yeah, that conservation heritage is very strong, and we're very proud to be part of the future of this park. This is something that people aren't really aware of. Cheetah are being reintroduced to the Luangwa Valley, not the South Luangwa, but North Luangwa. Our camp is just south of the cheetah reintroduction area. And yeah, they're bringing in between 20 and 50 cheetah initially. It was planned to happen this year, quietly, but we believe it will happen next year. So it's another sort of another aspect to making this already a very unique destination even more unique. And walking, yes. So North Luangwa, for those of you who know it, has always been for the one camp that's existed, Maleshi, a walking-only camp, proudly. And whilst we are still very proud to offer walking, as you can see, the first two images I've showed you are of us on walking safaris. We're very proud that Kutandala itself will not be a walking-only camp. We've got game drive vehicles, so game drives and night drives, as well as sleep outs and highs are all also on offer, not just walking. I'm saying that because it now provides, we now are providing a more rounded safari experience in North Luangwa. It was always been cool, unique, walking only, very niche, and it's still cool, unique, very niche, but less niche because we have that variety of activities. A typical day on safari with us at Kutandala will be a morning walk and an afternoon game drive. Yeah, it's a wonderful way to spend a day on safari. Now, the nitty-gritties. The Mwaleshi River, right? So Kutandala is on the Mwaleshi River. I showed you the map that we're right in the middle of the park. So North Luangwa has a Luangwa River, like South Luangwa does, on its eastern border. But the Mwaleshi River, which you're seeing here, an aerial view of, is the lifeblood of the North Luangwa National Park. It flows all year. It's the only river that flows all year other than Luangwa. And as a consequence, this is the reason that this particular location is a hive of activity and is as game dense as I just explained. Camp here, Kutandala, is nestled into these lovely riparian woodland, very cool and shady, overlooking this lovely plain and the Mwaleshi River beyond. You'll see one aspect of this image is quite interesting. In many ways, North Luangwa resembles South Luangwa. It looks sandy rivers, lots of buffaloes and big game, elephants everywhere. But the escarpment, which you do see in South Luangwa, miles away, the Machinga escarpment in the distance, here is right, it feels right close behind you. And I just think it adds drama to this landscape. And so, yeah, that's the scene at Kutandala. Open woodland, sandy rivers, very shallow, broad moving river, and vast kilometers to explore without anyone within it. Now I've got a minute and 10 seconds long video to show you. This was done in the 2 months of the season that we opened this year. So we had a soft opening, we called it this year. We managed to get camp open by September, and we had around 10 bookings. And one of those bookings was a young couple that managed to put together this really cool little video. So I'm just going to play this, and it really sets the scene. It's a few shots of the camp itself. There's a few shots of the game drives, the walks, and keep your eyes peeled for some of the wildlife shots as well, to see how relaxed the wildlife, especially the predators, are to our presence.
Ty, we didn't have audio. I don't think we missed anything, but just in case there was anything you wanted to cover there. But I think the
Okay.
pictures tell the story really well.
Yeah, that's frustrating. It's I was actually going to talk. I hoped you had heard it. The audio. There's a temporary choir was created when in camp by our staff members. So yeah, it's a really lovely video. So maybe we can share this video with folk afterwards. It's a shame that I was listening to it, but yeah, sadly it didn't
Sorry, yeah, I
happen.
should
But
have
anyway,
told you in advance.
visually it looked good. I hope, but yeah,
I'll put the link.
please, yeah.
I'll put the link in the chat right now, and then we'll also link it in the follow-up.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's also on our YouTube channel as well. Yeah. Okay, cool. But yeah, and I'll just follow up with a few slides that the video went through a bit quickly of how the camp looks, some of the wildlife and activities, and then I'm going to open up to questions because I think that's probably a good way for such a new destination for folk to ask specific questions. So, as I said, the camp is seasonal. This is an image of our main area, a very light-footed camp. You'll realize that it looks, those of you who are familiar with our camps in the Lower Zambezi, it was styled on our Kutali camp specifically. And those of you who've been to Kutali or know Kutali know how wonderful and yeah, and airy and open the stretch canvas and light-footed feel to our camps are. And this is certainly one of those, a lovely shady main area overlooking that plain that the aerial image I showed you before shows. So we've only got 5 rooms at Kutandala, no more than 10 guests. We have a guide or a pilot or a tour leader room as well, not part of the 5. So yeah, it's also something that I may be asked. But yeah, this lovely main area here, set under these fantastic mahogany trees. On the left, the image shows that. So really shady, beautiful view. The image in the middle it's not just an image of a herd of buffalo in front of camp. It is right in front of camp. And this was the first day we opened. We just went to pick up the first 2 guests from the airstrip, drove into camp. And this was what greeted them. There was a herd of about 100 buffalo in front of the main area. You can just see at the bottom, that's one of the chairs of that main area. We were blown away. But yeah, it's very much a big game in camp kind of place. In fact, North Luangwa is big game country. This is wild. It's a wild and woolly wilderness area. It's like, yeah, it's the closest I could feel to sort of stepping back in almost prehistoric times. You know, there's no one else around. You're wondering what the catch is. Even in camp, these animals haven't been perturbed by our presence when we were sort of building. Maybe thanks to the fact our camps aren't massive and you know, grossly large. But yeah, this is a typical scenes from the main area. The right-hand side, one of the cheeky bull elephants that came through one afternoon as we're setting up for sundowners. Our rooms, as I said, this is the style of stretch canvas room that we have. Plenty of room to stand up, move around within, good storage. We've learned a lot from our other camps. We feel we hope we know what the balance between feeling immersed in the bush, but also having some creature comforts is. So very comfortable beds, linens, yes, outdoor bathrooms, but flushing loos, running water taps, but yeah, bucket showers, you know. So here's a few sort of more on the rooms, the bucket showers you can see on the left, but nice and airy. And we're very proud of how the camp came out. And of course, small refinements will be made before we open again in June next year. But we were chuffed to get camp looking like this in anticipation of our first guests. You see the elephants, as I said, not perturbed underneath the winterthorn tree here. So yeah. And then the activities, yeah. So as I said, we've got game drive vehicles. We game drove every day. It's a phenomenal thing to be able to offer. We only are able to game drive on the northern side of the Moleshi River. Our camp is on the southern side. That actually works perfectly well because we don't want game drive loops cutting across vast areas of wilderness that we want to track rhinos within. And so having that split with south of the river where camp is being walking only and north of the river being driving and walking is brilliant, and it's worked out great. But you can see from this this crossing, this is the Moleshi crossing near camp, the only way to get across the river. The sense of adventure, I say we, the parks authorities, with some of our help, rebuild this pole bridge every year. This is how we get into camp by vehicle, year on season on season. We have a really cool activity. I've got a picture after this one, not just part of the sort of classic walking and game drives. The Mwaleshi River has a set of falls in those hills that I showed you from the aerial that is walkable. We could walk direct from camp if people are really up for a long morning walk, or we can kind of drive halfway, make a morning game drive, and walk up to the top of the headwaters of the Mwaleshi in those hills, where there's a set of waterfalls that we are able to swim in, believe it or not. And we set up this lovely picnic morning. It's one of our kind of staple. If guests spend those 4 nights minimum with us, at least one of these mornings will be this sort of excursion, pretty much a half-day trip up to the Mwaleshi Falls, picnic breakfast set up as a surprise for them after their nice morning walk. In our packing list for North Luangwa, we actually have bathing suits. It's one of the few places anywhere, really, where we safely are able to submerge ourselves in the waters of the Mwaleshi River, as it is so shallow, crystal clear. So yeah, the picnic breakfast, as I said, it's a more rounded experience than just sort of walking. These are our first guests that I spoke about that had that welcome of the buffalo in front of camp. I love this picture because after their first morning walk, and they're dusting their sandy toes off, crossing back into camp. Quite an old group, I say, relatively old, sorry, if anyone's this age. But I wanted to point out that you don't have to be fighting fit and young to enjoy North Luangwa. This gentleman here had his iPhone out, smiling away, trying to get selfies after a fantastic morning. This was the highlight. These guests did all of our camps. I think they spent 3 weeks with us through the Kafue, Lower Zambezi, and North Luangwa. They're repeat guests of ours, so that's why they were our kind of guinea pigs. But as you can see, they thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and I can assure you that the North Luangwa aspect was actually the highlight for them. Yeah, game drives on the sandy rivers of the Mwaleshi. We've got carmine bee to colonies, just like the South Luangwa, the Lower Zambezi. Yeah, pods of hippo, buffalo herds in the thousands. There's lots to see and to be enjoyed on an afternoon game drive here in North Luangwa. Walking, as I said, look how shallow now. You can see why it's not really a worry to walk in or swim or submerge in the Mwaleshi River. And crisscrossing this river is very much a part of the morning walking safaris. Yeah, boots off, boots on, tracking rhino spoor, tracking lions physically across the water, wild dog packs. See palm trees in the background there. It's a lot more variety to the vegetation, I feel, along this Mwaleshi. People are always surprised with the variety of habitat to sort of the more typical South Luangwa scenery. Yes, I knew we had a picture in here. This is the swim in the falls after that long morning walk. It's a very special thing to be able to do this. Yeah, in such a proper wilderness area. Some of the wildlife shots, you see this is one of those huge herds of buffalo. In fact, you can see our camp just in the background to the left. You see the main area tent there. So big game, not just on your activities, but right in front of camp. And as you can see, nice and relaxed, perfectly photographable, as were some of the lions that we came across this season. Fantastic lion dynamics. Yeah, we got to know 2 different prides. Interesting 3 different groups of males that seem to kind of rotate through the female prides, unbeknownst to each of the other groups of males, but the females didn't get to mind. So yeah, there's a lot of big game up here. It's a very exciting area. Yeah, I'm not supposed to show photos of rhinos, but of our 10 bookings this year, we had 6 different rhino sightings. Yeah, look, we're not selling rhino safaris. I think that's something we must reiterate, that, you know, it's definitely not a guarantee to see rhino in North Luangwa. For those of you who know black rhino, they are typically nocturnal. But we were blown away. 6 different sightings, proper sightings like this in 10 bookings is a pretty good return on rhino. They weren't all such fantastic photographic sightings as this. Some were on foot, fleeting. Some are very close, a tail swishing in a bush. But even if your guests don't get to physically see a rhino, the spoor, the story of Frankfurt, the Owenses, yeah, the droppings are everywhere. Like it's an amazing opportunity to offer people that aren't going to hold us accountable if they don't see a rhino, but are up for the adventure of spending a few days in a wilderness like this, where you have the opportunity to find wild black rhino in Africa. Well, I say in Africa, sorry, but in Zambia specifically, where this is the only place that is possible. Yeah, another one of the images we got. You see different rhino here to these two. So yeah. And that's, yeah, I think I'll end on that and open up to questions, but hopefully you can see how excited I am about it. I am biased, but I'm also fully invested in how amazing this park is. My father took me here when I was, I guess, 14, 15, maybe years of age. And we actually managed to see one of the first 6 reintroduced rhino. And so I'm very proud that a few years later, we have a camp here ourselves.
And your father's joined us as well, so it's all in the family there. Hey,
Awesome. There
Tony.
you go. That's it. Yeah.
Well, Ty,
Great.
yeah, I can tell how excited you are about this, and it's absolutely contagious. You know that when guys that have been in the bush for as long as you and Branchy and Luke talk about a place and get their eyes just get light up and sparkle. Not that you're over Kafui by any stretch. I know it's your home or the
Yeah.
Lower Zambezi, but this is some place that when you guys talk about it, you can tell it gets you really excited. So hopefully you all felt that excitement. We do have a couple of questions. The first one here, and maybe you can just see them, Ty, but I'll read this first one off from Pearl. Do you follow the
Yeah.
typical national park rules in South Luangwa? No off-roading, no night drives, or are those permitted?
Um, yeah, it's the same rules. I mean, the whole of Zambia has the same rules and regulations about off-road driving. But like what happens in the Kafui, places that are less busy, the management authorities aren't so worried about off-road driving and following sightings. So yeah, the rules are still there that you're not really supposed to, but they're not enforced because there's not a worry about sort of yeah, dozens of vehicle tracks going off following sightings and things like that. So yeah, no, that freedom to really follow and explore is 100% what this park is all about. So yeah, it hopefully that answers it. Yeah.
Yeah, when you have 16 beds in a park of 6,000 square kilometers, not a lot
Yeah.
of
And I think
hills are
I said a
human.
little bit about the zonation of the park as well. You know, the fact that south of the river is walking only anyway already kind of yeah, allows us to use for game drives the areas that are used for game drive and yeah, compartmentalize that. I mean, I think that the North Luangwa is going to become a busier park. Yeah, certainly a busier park than it is, but it's going to be on a lot more people's radars in the next 5 to 10 years. So I'm sure the management authorities will have to think about that kind of thing in the future. But that's another reason, honestly, to get in sooner rather than later to enjoy it, whilst it is still one of the last sort of tracts of bush that is like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Good question from your dad here. If guests are tight for time, what's the minimum length of stay?
I think 3 nights is fine. Fine. But I would spend 4 nights because you get the free flights between and Fui. I shouldn't say that because they're costing us a lot of money to subsidize those flights.
They're not free
But
for everybody. Not
yeah,
for you.
yeah, not for us, but it's all good. But yeah, no, 3 nights certainly as a minimum, definitely not two. I think that's the same for anywhere that's very wild in Zambia. Yeah, Zambia is not a 2 night destination.
Yeah.
But three's cool, but four is fine and good. Yeah.
And if anyone has questions and wants to unmute themselves, feel free. But we've got another one
Yeah.
here from Meg. Do the tents have fans? And if not, has there been any feedback from guests about sleeping during the hotter months? It's a good question.
Really good question. Yes, they do. There's power in all the tents. We did that. I don't know if you do know, but in all of our camps in Zambia, we added power to all of the rooms last year, including North Luangwa. So yeah, as kind of rustic as the camp looks, there are fans in the rooms. Yes. So yeah, that definitely makes a big difference. Look, I'll also talk on the temperature. I'll make no bones about it. Late October is hot, but it's hot in everywhere in this part of Africa. So, but yeah, the fans make a big difference. And honestly, what makes an even bigger difference is the fact that we can take you down into the Moleshi River, 20 yards in front of camp, in your, in your pants, and you can submerge. And there's no, you can sit there we've got little, what do you call it, a gazebo, and and that aspect is both novel but actually life-saving in those hot months, and gets you through to the 4 o'clock onwards when you go game viewing again. Yeah.
You could have a gin and tonic, a beer, or in Meg's case, a gin sonic as well, I imagine. That's also possible, hey? Keep
A
cool.
hundred
Maybe
percent.
maybe
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah.
I've got some photos that I couldn't share of us lads as we've been developing this camp for the last few years in our pants, watching herds of buffalo coming down with a beer in hand. That is what your guests will experience if they want to. It's very, 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 very unique.
And Barbara asks, is there power
Maybe not in my pants.
24/7?
Sorry?
Is there power 24/7 in the tents?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And charging points?
Charging points in the rooms and main area, both. Yeah. So we've learned that over the years as well. We've been invested heavily upfront on good solar. The whole camp runs fully on solar, all the refrigeration, ice machine, fans. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's touch wood. All
Cool.
worked very well the 2 months we had of our soft opening. Yeah.
And then last question for me, and then anybody else, if you want to chime in. If not, we'll wrap it up. But in terms of logistics, if you have guests at your camps in the south, in Lower Zambezi or Kafue, just talk about the
Yeah.
logistics then of connecting your camps with North Luangwa and Kutandala.
That's a really good point. So connecting the Lower Zambezi and North Luangwa is straightforward because you could use ProFlight from Jeki to Mfui, which I believe are actually expanding to everyday direct flights. It was 3 or 4 times a week. So it's such a popular route that they're doing it every day. So you'd fly from Jeki to Mfui, and then as I explained on the earlier slides, we'd pick you up from your landing at Mfui and hop you up 45 minutes to North Luangwa. So that's very straightforward. Now, I don't want to maybe confuse it, but Luke and I are talking about, whilst our 4-night stay has free flights included, to have a rate for a direct flight between North Luangwa and Jeki. So you pay for that. So you don't have to go through Mfui. It's not a big thing because it's kind of it's overhead and whatever. But to have an attainable rate to go straight between Jeki and North Luangwa for those who don't need to go to South Luangwa necessarily. So that is in the pipeline. We haven't formalized that, but that is likely to be there. So if you've got folk that don't want to go to or don't need to go to South Luangwa, but are keen to go direct, let me know, and we could probably push that proposed but likely seat rate for that direct North Luangwa Jeki flight. For the Kafue, it'll be through Lusaka, so Kafue Lusaka, and then you connect on to that Mfui flight and up. There's again making no bones about it. To combine the Kafue and North Luangwa, absolutely doable, but it's 3 flights. It's miles away. So it's a wonderfully diverse safari to do that. But yeah, you just need to be prepared that you're going to be spending most of that day getting between the 2 areas. But the Lower Zam and North Luangwa are certainly doable. South Luangwa and North Luangwa, yeah, I can see that working very well. And the nice thing I think about us not having any allegiance in South Luangwa is that all of you on here, if you've got camps that you prefer in South Luangwa, do your 3, 4, 5 nights there, and then get them back to Mfui, and they're up with us up there in North Park. So yeah, that will work well.
Excellent. Well, if there's no other questions, now's your last chance. Ty, thanks so much for the time, for staying up late on your side, and just conveying this contagious enthusiasm for North Luangwa and Kutandala. I'll speak for myself, but I think all of us here probably felt that a lot and are excited to one day get up and see the camp in person. And hopefully, all of you, we will send out a follow-up with the full recording, with fact sheets, with that video. You did see I sent the video in the chat as well. But if you do have any questions and Ty's asleep on the Africa side, you can reach out to me or Vanessa or Gretchen, and we'd be happy to try to help. But thanks for taking the time with all of us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, Ty.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.